and welcome once more to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name is Richard Clapson, and as always, it's great to have you here with us, or well, with me actually today. And over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the world of small-scale property development. And as always, talking to some of the movers, the shakers, the people out there that are actually doing stuff, maybe developers, maybe consultants. Today, we've actually got a developer, which is really, really exciting. And indeed, what's going on in the world of property. Above all, and most importantly, we're going to have a bit of fun in doing it. So hopefully you enjoyed the next 30 minutes, because why not? Life is far too short not to. So what's happening on today's show? Well, I've got a great guest, someone that I've been working with now for several years, helping them on their journey. They came to us with no development experience at all, no development experience. And we sit here now in 2023, and they have now completed, at the time recording this, completed and nearly sold most of their first development. So this is my first development project from Joe Balston from JMBH Developments. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you.
Nice to see you and nice to talk to you as a developer, because I can't remember when we first met, Joe, but probably it's got to be 3, 4, 5 years, maybe. I don't know.
Probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Time flies when you're having fun. And I met you, Joe, at a networking event, a property networking event. You were pushing yourself out there. You wanted to get into property. And if I remember right, at that time, you were doing interior design in the corporate world. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely correct. Yep, I did that for 20 years.
And you had a job then, didn't you?
I had a job.
Do you have a job now, Joe?
Well, sort of. I employ myself.
But the nice thing, and what was your objection, Joe? Those 5 or 6 years ago, you're out there taking that first step into the networking world. What was it that you wanted to do? What did Joe Balston, what was the end goal?
I wanted to get out of my corporate job. I'd had enough. I was lucky. The job was one I always loved, but I got to the point where I just felt that I'd had enough of it, and I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to spend more time with my son. He's now 12, so he was quite small at that point. And I felt that getting out into property, I love property. I've always loved, renovating properties. That's been the thing that I'd done previously, and obviously through my job as well. And so I felt that going out networking in property would give me some ideas about what it was I could do. I didn't know it would be development. I loved the idea of it, but I had no clue how I would ever do it. So I was using the networking with an angle of the interior design as a kind of foot in the door to kind of get talking to people with a view to learning, I guess, and finding out how I could do that.
And now you are a fully fledged developer. We're going to talk about your first project. You're sat there at home in your office. I'm assuming that's where you are. And you have a lot of time flexibility now, don't you?
I do. That's the best thing. I have so much time flexibility.
And does your son still want to spend time with mum at 12 years old?
Yeah, he does. He still does. I'm clinging on to it.
It will be gone soon.
Yes.
Joe, you're one half of JMBH. And unfortunately, Michelle couldn't be with us today. I know she's actually down on your development, finishing off a couple of the issues you've got in there with the handover of a couple of the apartments. Just tell me, Michelle, Lucas and yourself, you met on our program here at propertyCEO. Why did you decide to join together?
Well, it initially came from a conversation where I don't even know if you'd remember this. I tabled a deal, we were going through deals, and I tabled one that had some legs and looked quite promising. And upon that feedback, I'd obviously started backing out of the room in fear, because I was thinking, well, that's all very well, but I don't know how I'd ever find anyone to back me financially.
Yeah.
And she said, kind of noticed that I was doing that, and she came to me and said, look, don't let that be the reason why you don't do this, because I've been working for a long time with somebody who's who wants to invest, and my problem is that I can't envisage what something's going to be. I can't see it when I look at a building that's run down.
Yeah.
Obviously my skills are interior design, and I can visualize things, so it seemed like quite a good synergy. And we started sort of talking together and making sure that we kept having those conversations as we were searching, and it kind of grew from there.
And Michelle was a restaurateur, so she was running a business, so she had a business head on her. And I think you'd always been employed. So I guess you had those two strengths that really work well together. You could visualize the building. She could maybe visualize the business and the monetary side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And then through the job I'd done, I'd worked, doing stuff on sites for years as well, not all the detail. And I was obviously one of the team rather than running the team, but it gave me a bit more of an insight into that side, which was another thing, which was for her was totally alien.
Yeah.
So yeah, we played off each other quite well.
Now, this is a long journey. We always say, and anyone listening to this edition of Open Door will know if they've listened to others, that development is not get rich quick. It's a long game. Do you remember that wonderful day when you first came on our mentorship program? Do you remember when that was? What month and year was that? Do you remember?
It was 2020, wasn't it? I think it was March 2020.
March 2020. Well, you know more than me then. I actually thought it was at the back end of 2019.
Oh, okay. Yes, well, it could have been.
I think it might have been. Well, we're not going to argue on that. So whether it was the back end of 2019 or early 2020, it's now sort of taken 3.5 years, maybe 4 years, for Joe to get a development, okay, to get the education, to get the knowledge, get the development, finish the development, and come out the back. And you're still not quite complete. We're going to talk about the project in a minute. How long before you finished selling the last flats and wrapping up the final account, if you had to guess?
Well, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 months.
Okay, so let's just say it's a 4-year journey. Let's assume you started October, November, something like that in 2019. And let's assume you might take another 3 or 4 months. Okay, that's a 4-year journey. Now, at the end of that 4-year journey, I mean, Joe, tell us about the project in a minute. Hopefully she's projecting to make a reasonable sum out of it. First project is the most important thing, is about the learning. The second project, hopefully you're going to do even better. But looking back, okay, before I ask you, are you going to do another development? Looking back, any regrets on going on this development journey? Because it's a tough 4 years, isn't it? This is a tough journey.
Yeah, there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of challenges as well, and learning the steep learning curve, I think I would say. But no, not a single regret about it. I've really loved it. I guess I'm sort of one of those people that quite likes a challenge. I don't sit still for very long. I like to be challenged, so that suits me. But I've loved it all, even the hard bits. So no regrets here.
Lots of them, isn't there?
There have been a few.
So let's talk about the deal. I'm sure most people are on here, and I'm sure I can almost hear you now shouting out, saying, "Tell me about the project." Joe, what was this project that you, just in broad, high-level terms, what did you do as your first development?
We took 2 commercial buildings, which are offices, and we converted them into 11 flats.
Okay, so an office building, existing commercial office buildings, convert them into 11 flats. Did you do that under permitted development rights?
Yes, we did.
Am I right in saying, though, you also had a little bit of planning uplift? You went for a planning application to get a bit of an extension on the property. So the deal stacked on the permitted development, but you got a bit of what we often call icing on the cake with a bit of planning uplift. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Which gave us 1 extra flat at the back, 2-bed one.
Cool, good stuff. So, first of all, and this is the most difficult challenge. I was just talking to another one of our students today who said, "God, it's so difficult to find deals." He said, "It's a lot more difficult than what I imagined." I said, "Yeah, but have I always told you it's difficult?" He went, "Yeah, you did, but I thought it was going to be easier." It's not easy to find deals, Joe. I mean, could you imagine how many deals you looked at before you secured this deal, which is actually down in Southampton in Hampshire on the south coast? How many deals did you look at, or maybe you and Michelle look at, before you got to the one that came off?
I can tell you because I had it all in a spreadsheet. And it was about 80.
That's good. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had that in a spreadsheet. So you've done well, because do you remember the number I tell you how many deals you have to look at? I told you back probably
100.
in 20. Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
I always tell people, folks, you've got to look at 100 deals. Seriously. And that's not just flicking through a right move. 100 deals to get one, 80 to get one. Perfect. I didn't know you recorded that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And this deal then, how did it come about? Did you just sit there on Rightmove and see what you could do? Or how did you find this deal? Was it about relationships? Tell me.
Well, I was working hard on the relationships. Yeah, I'd singled out a number of commercial agents in the area that we wanted to target. And I had been around and I'd met them all, and I'd left my business card, and I'd left like a company CV and thing that said what it was we were looking for. So I'd started doing that, and I was, tapping on their doors kind of regularly, trying to get my name in. The deal that we ended up getting did come through an agent, actually, and it was on the market. But there's a bit of a story around that. It wasn't straightforward.
Are you able to share a little bit of the story?
So the project that we saw was on the market, and we looked at it, went to see it, stacked it, and we thought it was quite a nice little project. It would have been 5 units, it once converted, which seemed like a nice manageable figure. We thought that sounds good. So we offered, but the offer was rejected because it wasn't compelling enough for the vendor. So we kind of went away, but tail between the legs. But during that period, I'd obviously, we've been talking to this guy, this agent, and I'd been doing my going around with my leaflets. And he said, well, I'm just measuring up next door. Would you like to look at that one? It's very, very similar. And it was very similar, apart from a little extension to the rear, which he didn't have. So we had a look at that, and we thought, well, actually, that would be quite cool. So again, offered on that. And again, it would have been 5 units with permitted development. And that offer was accepted on a long stop of a year completion, because we were in COVID at that point. Yep. And it had tenants in it, and we wanted the tenants out. Yep. So we gave ourselves some time. So that was going on, and then we were checking in about the one we'd lost, the next door one, regularly with the agent, mainly because we wanted to know what they were going to do with it. We didn't really want our resi to be sandwiched in between a bunch of offices, so we were hoping they were going to convert it. Michelle rang up one day and they said, well, it's all gone wrong. Deal's fallen through. And she kind of went, well, we're still here. Does our offer still stands? Would you accept our previous offer? And they went off and said that they would. So she rang me and said, I hope you don't mind, I've just bought another building.
And what did you do at that point?
A bit of a panic about how we were going to pay for it.
Okay, well, let's move on to that then, because I mean, what you've proved there is it's about building relationships, and this was effectively on market, off market deal, but this relationship stuff would got you the deal ultimately. Yeah. Come to that point, because you said you're panicked. You probably had a large glass of vino or some description to actually say how we're going to pay for this. What did you have to pay for those 2 buildings?
It was a little over 600.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you a question, and you don't have to answer this, but I think you will probably answer this honestly, because I think this is really powerful for people. Between you and Michelle, did you have £600,000 kicking around to purchase those buildings?
No.
No. Okay. You didn't. Okay. So you had to go and borrow that money, but Michelle had already built some relationships with potential private investors. That's what you said earlier. Is that correct?
Yeah, she'd spent a long time with that. She'd created herself a pension scheme a number of years previously, and then this particular person got interested in what she was doing with her pension, and she guided them through the process of it as well. And so took them on all the learnings and kind of, took them under her wing with that. And so as a result, they were kind of there along with her, ready for her to find something. They were keen to get involved, which was fantastic for us.
So again, it's back to that relationship. You had a relationship with the agent. Michelle then built this relationship, or had been building this relationship with the funder. And because you two built a relationship, the whole thing all sort of fell into place. So that's circa 600,000 purchase. Did you borrow the majority of that money off this private investor, or was it a mix of private money and commercial money to purchase?
It was private money from the investor to purchase the building, and commercial money for the build costs. We did put a tiny bit of our own money in, but it was really just a very small amount to get us started with kind of architects' fees and stuff like that.
So you had a little bit of skin in the game, but fairly nominal. Okay. Yeah. And that was between both of you. So you've gone out, 600,000 is to purchase private money. And then roughly what did you spend on just overall on the conversions? You've converted these offices to a load of flats, and all the interest, all the professional fees, the project managers, architects. What did you spend on the whole rest of that, just roughly?
So it was about 1.8 million.
Is that including the purchase? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about 1.2 commercial money and a 600,000. So you borrowed about 1.8 million pounds.
Sounds really a lot when you say that. Given that interesting, isn't it?
It is, because the reason I wanted to make a point of that, because a lot of people will be listening to this, and if you wind the clock back, Joe, back in the days when you first came on our program, and you would, and if I had said to you, look, in a couple, 2, 3 years time, you'll be borrowing 1.8 million pounds, it would have felt quite scary, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have done. Absolutely.
And I can imagine for anyone listening to this, borrowing 1.8 million pounds. First of all, you're probably thinking, who on earth would lend me 1.8 million pounds? Surely they wouldn't, because I've never done this before. Well, Joe never run a business. Joe was an interior designer, but she got educated. She learned what to do. Michelle, I believe, had a couple of HMOs that she'd built or done, but she was a restaurateur, basically. Yep. So she was a businesswoman. And between them, they borrowed 1.8 million because the deal stacks up. So you can do it. Now, that's the money. So we borrowed all the money, you had a commercial fund, you had some private money. What about the team? Because I'm assuming you didn't go and wire this thing up, you didn't do the plastering. How did you go out and assemble a team? Because you've never assembled a team before. How did that happen?
Yeah, so we had a full team, everybody that we needed to have. So we had, project management and cost control, and we had, our architect, structural engineer, we had the full lot. The architect was somebody, again, that Michelle had known for years and had actually done some work for her previously on her restaurant. So he was tried and tested. The rest of the project manager and the other people that we had came through recommendations of other professionals that we knew through our contacts. None of them were cold called. Everybody that we came across, was recommended by somebody.
So you find one, and Misha had that connection in her restaurant, so she'd refurbished, presumably, her restaurant at some point. Yep. Architect had been involved. She must have said to that architect, hey, would you fancy working with us? He or she, was it he or she? It's just what you know. So he probably said, yeah, that's great. She might have said, do you know a structural engineer? Do you know a project manager? And then the structural engineer, you might have said, do you know a project manager, a cost consultant? The team just grew from that basis. Through recommendation of relationships. And
it works well that way, because you find that, for example, we had a private building control lady, and our contractor had worked with her a lot as well. So, they said, they're really good. We know we can work with them. So we went out, reached out to them. And that can be really advantageous if you know that their track record is proven and they're not, they're going to be helpful to work with. I think that's a good way of approaching it. It worked really well.
Did you find, because I think a lot of people would be thinking, Joe, why would anyone want to work for me? So what sort of reaction did you get out of these architects, structural engineers and so on? Did they say, have you done this? Is this new? How did they react to you?
I don't remember anyone saying that. And I think the point was that by the point that we were looking to engage them, we'd already done a fair bit of work on this ourselves. I planned it all, kind of probably a bit more than block planned, because I'm an interior designer and I can't help myself. And we'd sort of pulled our numbers together. We'd had our friendly agent giving us proposed values. So we had quite a lot of information to go to them with and to demonstrate that, we've thought about this quite heavily. We haven't just leapt in. And then because I always think it's so much easier to try pushing on a door that's half open. So if you're talking to somebody that through a recommendation and they recommend somebody else, then the questions like that don't get asked, because it just comes naturally from a recommendation from another professional. So it really helps your kind of credibility, because you don't get asked those questions.
Did you have your sort of branding and websites built when you went out? Yeah, so people would have checked you out, and as part of the process that we would have taught and guided you on is to build that branding so people could check you out as a developer. But I think, again, that's a really nice share, because I think there'll be a lot of people listening to this thinking, well, why would they want to work for me? Well, the answer is they want to work for developers, and whether you're a new developer or an old developer, it doesn't really matter, as long as you demonstrate professionalism, and clearly you did, and you demonstrated you knew what you're talking about because you were properly educated. They were dead keen to work with you, weren't they?
Yeah, 100%. They get excited because they love doing their craft.
Yeah.
So they can start to see, you get them involved in the excitement of this is what, we're envisioning this kind of thing that we want to do. And, that's it. We're off the blocks now because the excitement's kicked in. But yeah, we had a website built, and we had the all the collateral there that behind us to kind of make us look professional.
How did you run this project then? Because clearly you don't have experience to run a development project. You've got a 1.8 million in this pot. You're running this big project. You're trying to yield a 6-figure profit at the back end. So many things could go wrong. Did you run this project on a daily basis yourselves, or what did you do?
No, we had a project manager to do that. I think we maybe were more involved than we would like to be in the future, but we also knew that we needed to learn. But that certainly didn't mean that we were there every day. We were maybe going to site every other week, maybe, probably every other week, and just having a quick look around just to get a feel, sitting down once a month with the team and going through everything.
So your project manager, they were running the project on a daily basis. They were looking after the contractor. They were looking after all the flow of information from your design team, your architect, your engineers, and the contractor in turn was controlling all the trades, the individual subcontractors.
Yes.
So all you were really controlling, am I right in saying all you were controlling here is the project manager effectively?
Yeah.
And going to site, so you probably only needed to go to that formal meeting once a month, but you went to site a little bit more because you wanted to learn on your first project.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were excited to see it evolve as well. And I think there's nothing better than going and seeing things and seeing what's happening on the ground, but with a view that we weren't meddling. I mean, let's make that clear. We were literally walking around, maybe asking some questions, but certainly not getting involved in the nitty-gritty of what was going on. That was diverted back to the project manager if anything was asked like that. And
how did that because the contractor's got 2 brand new developers, how did the contractor react to you doing your first development? Was he supportive? Was he good?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I think, again, they get excited too for a new project and want things to go well. And so, yeah, 100% supported from that side too.
So we pulled the money together. We found the deal, pulled the money together. We've assembled a team. Okay. You're building the thing out. The big thing is selling this. So you would have predicted what the marketplace was going to be. Obviously, that's another thing we guide and support our students on, how to read the market. How did you end up selling these? So did you go to an agent? Did you sell off market? Off plan? How did you do it?
Yeah, we did go to an agent. When we initially were reaching out for to build a picture of the GDV, I went out to 3 different friendly agents. One of them in particular was really brilliant. And so we went with them. And they marketed off plan and then have taken the sales through to completion now. So we marketed off plan, and maybe it was a bit early. Yeah. But it was good to get them off plan. And then they've mainly gone to investors and they've gone to first-time buyers.
So I know some are still going through, but are they effectively all being sold? You've just got a few to go through.
Yeah, we've got 4 that we're still marketing. The rest have gone through. Yeah.
So now I know you said to me just before when we previously spoke that you're still sorting out some final accounts, bits and pieces with the contractor, which is very often the case. You've still got the final sales to go through. Yes. Profitability wise, I think you're going to say you don't know the answer, but where would you hope to be on this?
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, we don't know the answer. There's still some things to pull together and it will come in time. Give us a few months, we should have a clearer picture of that. But I think, hopefully we'll get out of it and we'll have a 6-figure sum, and that would be fantastic. And a ton of learning, because we really have learned an awful lot.
And it's that, I know that certainly at the beginning of this project, yourself and Michelle said, for you, yeah, okay, profitability wise, great, this is important, but actually this has set you up now, and I'm assuming you're going to do another project. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%.
So this has set you up for your next project. So almost if this project broke even, you wouldn't have worried on your first project, as long as everyone's got paid back then you could go on to your second with all those learnings. So just taking those learnings into account, give me top three things that you really learn on this project that perhaps you're really going to think, okay, that caught me out a little bit. I never expected that sort of thing to be as important. What might they be?
So one of the challenges that we had early on was, which really stopped us from getting money on to the project. So from the commercial lending point of view, and was a bit of one of those things we hadn't expected, was that one of the buildings was not registered. It never had been registered with the land registry. There was what's called an epitome of deed, and it literally was like handwritten italic scrolly writing back to 1880.
Yeah.
But nothing in land registry. And unfortunately, that means that they can't put a charge on the property. So you can't borrow any money. That was a bit of a learning curve, but you can get it moved forward more quickly using your solicitor. But obviously, keeping an eye out for that, next time I'll be more aware, and we can move more quickly and get that, proceed more quickly with that in the future if we needed to do that, because sometimes that will happen.
Yeah, that's going to be fairly unusual, but you've got that experience. What's your second one then that's really crept up on you that perhaps you're going to make sure you're aware of next time?
Well, it sounds a bit obvious, but when you're taking apart an old building, you have no clue what you're going to find underneath all that plaster. And we found a massive crack. Yeah, a really big one. And that's okay, because again, we had the team around us. So literally they uncovered this huge structural crack that went right from the ground to the ceiling, to the roof, and called the structural engineer out, and he specified a system to repair it. Obviously there was a bit of cost incurred with that. Again, you can't really do anything about that when you're taking old buildings apart, because you are going to find things, but it's just that kind of knowledge that have you got enough in your contingency? Make sure that you do have money in a contingency so that stuff can be covered off. And
is that your learning for next time, is just to make sure you're on an old building, your contingency is really robust, because you're now going to expect those type of things. Yeah,
absolutely. And don't be frightened the fact that there might be things that come up. The team are there and they're going to help you find a solution for it, and they will find a solution.
Yeah, so you might have looked at that big crack and thought, oh my word, my building's going to fall down. The structural engineer came in and went, don't worry about that, we can solve it. There's a little bit of extra cost, but they just solve it. I guess that was that the outcome?
Yeah, basically that was the outcome.
Yeah, structural engineer didn't run around panic and run down the street screaming with his arms in the air.
No, he didn't. He didn't do that.
Give me a third. So we've talked about the deeds, the structures. One more.
The final thing that has been a challenge is the sales, and getting the sales moving fast. And technically that should have been easy, because we had 11 units which are all pretty much the same, going through one soliciting firm, and you think that's going to be quite an easy process, but it has taken a really long time. And I think something that we do in the future is to ahead of actually having to do the conveyancing, is to get those sales packs together with all the searches and everything done ready to just hand out, to stop the time that takes, but also all of those questions that come when solicitors start doing their conveyancing, which you still get some questions, but hopefully that would cut the time frame down.
So get ahead on the sales packs.
Yes.
Okay, Joe, look, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who maybe are at the start of their journey or want to start their journey. Forget your learnings, cast your mind back 3 or 4 years when you started this journey. And I think a lot of people will appreciate that this is a long journey. And at the end of the day, if you can make a 6-figure sum, in 3 or 4 years' time, with that going to put you in a good place. Joe's now out of a job, okay, on a positive manner. Our son's still talking to us, so that can't be bad at 12 years old. That's going to be, I reckon, 1 or 2 years left max, and that'll change.
Yeah, probably.
And then it comes back again. But what sort of top 3 tips could you give to new developers? What's your first one?
Don't underestimate the importance of relationships. And you have to do that face to face. Like, it's no good trying to do that over email or phones, really. I mean, you have to get out and meet people.
So get out, come out from behind your computers, get out and immerse yourself in the industry.
Yes.
Build those relationships. Okay.
I found that really hard, by the way. That wasn't an easy one for me.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just found it. I find it really hard to pick up the phone to people. That's really odd. And I suppose there's an element of imposter syndrome there when you're starting something new and you feel, oh gosh, someone's going to ask me something, it's going to catch me out and I'm going to look stupid. But I think just remembering that, just to be honest, like we've always tried to approach everything with a really transparent viewpoint that, okay, I don't know everything, but tell me what you know and I'll learn it because I'm open here. I want to learn.
Did anyone try and catch you out?
Nobody's tried to catch us out.
No, they're not like that. People want to support. Okay, so relationships. What's your second one?
The strength of your network, which is connected, I know, but building that really strong network around you, I think, is so important. You really find yourself drawing on it, and now this is different from a couple of years ago. But if anything comes up, we're kind of the first question we ask ourselves is, right, okay, who do we know that can help us with this? And if we can't think of somebody, we'll be like, okay, who's a person who could connect us with somebody who can help us with this? So yeah,
I think that's a really great one, because they are different. You've got to build a network, but to keep that network going and maximize it, you've got to build relationships in that network. And I think probably what you've identified already is that you now know enough people that could pretty much solve any problem that you're ever going to get in development. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Good. Third and final. It's going to be the most important one. Anyone out there who's thinking about giving this a go, what's your third and final suggestion for a new developer?
You don't have to know everything. You got to be quite organized. You got to have a handle on things. But the thing that will really stop you from actually doing this, if you don't actually take any action. That sounds really obvious again, but if you can want it all you want, you can dream about it forevermore, but if you don't actually do something about it and get off your bottom and do some stuff about it, then it won't happen, because no one can make it happen apart from you.
Wow. Were there times you thought it might not happen?
There have been times which have been, yeah, like, not that it wouldn't happen, but I just was kind of like, oh my gosh, this is going to take longer than I thought. And yeah, this is pulling a lot of my resources, like my not even time resources, but just my kind of energy resources, because there's a lot going on.
Hard work, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think it's so important to just tap into that reason why you're doing it. Mine was that I desperately wanted to create time with my son. And if you can focus on that, then it will help you when those times are tricky and you're feeling like, oh God, this is challenging at the minute. And I literally have got pictures of that here. Like, you can't see it because it's behind my screen, but I've got pictures here because it's, okay, it's right here and it reminds me. That's why I'm doing it. Stop moaning. Get on with it.
Tough journey. Well, Joe, look, I'm pleased that propertyCEO have played maybe a small part in your journey. Hopefully we've helped guide and support you on there, and we're still here to help you as always with our Developers Club. Joe also thankfully does help some of our existing students. Joe actually works a bit for us here, a bit ad hoc, doing some accountability calls to keep actually students, based on that last comment, on track. She doesn't teach them, but she actually keeps them on track because she's been there and made all the excuses to herself under the sun. But that's a role that we love Joe doing, and I know we get great feedback from the students. Joe, if people want to reach out to JMBH, what's the best details? I'm sure some people might want to. What's the best contact details?
So you can have a look at our website, which is jmbh.co.uk, and you can ping us an email on hello@jmbh.co.uk.
Great stuff. And what we do, folks, we'll put those in the show notes so you can pick those up. And please reach out to Joe or Michelle, pop onto their website, have a look what they're doing, and hopefully follow their journey as well. If you want to get involved with them in whatever shape or form, then reach out, have a chat with them. They're very, very friendly. Wherever you are, I'm sure they'll give you a bit of time, even for a virtual coffee, and you never know what you might learn. Joe, thank you for coming in. It's much appreciated. I'm sure that has been great for many people. You go and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Pleasure as always. Wow, wasn't that good? I mean, that could be you. I mean, look, Joe's journey, it's been 4 years, okay? We've had COVID in the middle of that. But look, assume it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 years. This isn't going to get rich quick. If you're starting this journey now, you're not going to get rich in 12 months. It's not going to happen, okay? Get rich slow. That's the route, but you can get super wealthy out of this. Yes, maybe your first project, you're not going to make exactly what you want, but your second and third, look at all those learnings that Joe shared with us. Just imagine yourself where you are now, you being in 2, 3 years, maybe 4, in Joe's place, about to get involved and start your second project. You can do this if you really want to. Take action. That's what Joe said. So here we are. Grab a pen and paper. I'm going to give you a bit of action to take straight away. Write this down. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. That stands for six-figure roadmap. Joe was talking that she hopes to make a six-figure sum out of it. Time will tell once she's done all the final account and sold the last units. But if you want to see what a six-figure roadmap looks like for you, click onto that. There's a bit of learning I put together. Go and have a listen. We talk all about raising private finance, how you can pull deals together to start you on your journey. Hopefully you found that useful. If you like what we do, just click, share, like it, whatever you have to do here on YouTube. And we'll see you again on the next show. Thanks for watching. Cheers now. Bye-bye.